coming into 2020. My name is Jennifer, I'm an MSW intern here, and we're going to be starting our meeting. We're going to be talking about Census 2020. We're going to be also talking about the PG&E project update and then bridge housing at the new Chinatown Navigation Center. So I'm going to start with the Census 2020, and we'll start.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. My name is Malkin. I am a partnership specialist with the U.S. Census Bureau. Thank you so much for inviting us here, for having us here today. I'm just going to speak a little bit about what service-based enumeration is. So the service-based enumeration operation ensures that individuals without conventional housing and people who may be experiencing homelessness are counted in the census. It is our goal that we count everybody once, only once, and in the correct place. And with that in mind, for the 2020 census, the service-based enumeration operation will be conducted from March 30th through April 1st, 2020. So that's March 30th, 31st, and April 1st. Where is it conducted? It's conducted at emergency and transitional shelters, with those with sleeping facilities, where people who may be experiencing homelessness stay overnight. It also is conducted at soup kitchens, regularly scheduled mobile van stops, and pre-identified non-sheltered outdoor locations. So areas such as this would qualify under the temporary non-sheltered outdoor location. How does it work? So in service-based enumeration operations, a Census Bureau representative conducts an in-person interview with each person who is served or staying at a given service-based location on Census Day. Each interview takes about 10 minutes. It's very brief. And it's an individual census questionnaire, ICQ. Shelters, they can also choose to respond using, they can choose paper response data collection as their enumeration method. And in this case, a Census Bureau representative meets with the group's quarters administrator to obtain a paper listing of the response data for each person who is served or staying at the facility on Census Day. So just to reiterate, service-based enumeration is the enumeration of people experiencing homelessness or using transitional shelters. The planned modes of data collection are in-person interviewing using paper ICQs or picking up of the paper roster listing. So what that means in simple terms is that towards the end of March will the last 2 days of March, to be specific, March 30th, March 31st, and on April 1st, you will most likely, on any of those 3 given days, see census enumerators out in the community conducting the in-person individual census questionnaire. And as I said, it's very brief, it takes about 10 minutes to do. And I see there's a question, yes, so go ahead.
What about us who live in a tent? Do we count?
Yes, everybody counts, absolutely. And that's, as I was saying, on any of those 3 given days, either the 30th, 31st of March, or April 1st, is when you will see census enumerators in the community, and they will ask you, most likely, to please take the questionnaire for the census. And why is it important? I wanted to just briefly go over 3 elements of why you should do the census. It's safe, it's easy, and it's very important. It's safe. All of the data that is collected is protected under Title 13, the U.S. Code, and no personal identifiable information will ever be revealed by any census employee, including myself. We are all sworn to take an oath that we will not reveal any information for the rest of our lives, and not just for the duration of the census, but for life. There's another question. Yes?
I have a question. On the part where it's talking about PG&E, if you live in a tent, right, you really don't pay bills, and you really don't have like electricity to pay for it. So
she's talking about the census, so we're going to get on to that.
Sorry,
That's our
yes.
next question. So this is just about gathering information for the census.
Oh, it's not about paying bills?
We'll get to that.
No, yes.
If we're homeless, we can work for the census too?
Yes.
Go online?
That brings me to my closing point. Yes, we do. We are hiring. The requirements for someone to work for the U.S. Census are that you be at least 18 or over and have the legal right to work in the country. Generally, we would say that you be a U.S. citizen, but now we want to also be clear that as long as you have the legal right to work in this country, you can apply to work for the U.S. Census.
Okay.
So, yes, thank you for that. We have a nice table set up here as well in the back to my right, which would be to your left. With lovely Florence over there. You raise your hand. She's right there. We have more information over there. We also have lots of goodies that we brought for you, bags and other things. But if you're interested, if you'd like to have just a brief actual paper handout of everything I've said, as I said, there's a flyer there. It has infographics that explain basically all that I've spoken about with regards to service-based enumeration and how it will be conducted on those 3 days. Does anybody else have any questions?
How much is the pay?
For working with the census, right now, I believe in this region, the pay is anywhere between $21 to $25 an hour. Yeah, and the minimum hour dedication that is required is only 10 hours per week. So, and yeah, we only require 10 hours to work for us. If you can't give more, that's totally okay. But at a minimum, 10 hours a week, because we do understand that people have other commitments. And as long as public transportation is available to you, you don't necessarily have to own your own car to work for us, although if you do, all mileage is also reimbursed, and all training is paid as well. So that's one of the good things about working
When
for the
does it
census.
start?
It can start whenever you are needed. Essentially, whenever we have the need for people to work for us, if you are available and you're qualified, most likely you will be contacted about possibly working for the U.S. Census. It's a great gig. I encourage everyone to at least apply.
Do you have proof of citizenship?
I don't, so.
Being a U.S. citizen?
So as I said, it's not absolutely required that you be a U.S. citizen to work. As long as you have the legal right to work in the country, that is sufficient for the U.S. Census at this time. With regards to proof of citizenship, that's another, it's a whole other topic that I'm not really, I wish I had my recruiting assistants with me. She'd probably be able to answer that more concisely. But at this time, it depends on, it depends on if they request it at the time that you are hired, is probably the best I can say about that. But,
So you need
yes.
ID, you need stuff like that, right?
Probably.
To show who you are?
I would assume
Pretty obvious.
for working you would, but, yeah, was there a question? Sorry.
Yes. So I was just curious, I know the city is a partner with the census.
Yes.
Have they coordinated to make sure there's not going to be any sweeps for like at least 2 weeks or something around the city? Because like she asked about the tents earlier, there's a lot of people in places, and if there was less shuffling around, you'd be able to one by one pick these people, because there's a good 50 encampments around the city that I don't think the census is really going to try that hard unless people.
We try to get everybody.
Well-
That's why we partner with all these lovely organizations to know exactly where we need to go to find
Okay.
those targeted non-sheltered outdoor locations.
So then I would, that's my question, is the city going to not do a sweep for like at least 2 weeks a month while the census is happening?
That's a good question. I cannot state as to whether the city or the county has given us, the U.S. Census Bureau, any sort of like
Right.
information as to what their.
So I think that would be a good thing to worry about.
Yeah, I will definitely look into that. At this time, I personally do not know whether there's any specific targeted.
It'd be nice for it to be stated by the city.
The 3 days that we're talking about, though, it's March 30, 31st, and April 1st. So for those 3 days, I
Would expect
would
this.
expect not, that there wouldn't be. But again, I don't know that there has been any actual firm commitment about that, but I can certainly look into that. That's a good point. Thank you.
There's another question in response, because if we have sweeps during that time, your count will be off.
Be very off. And so even 2 weeks prior, there should be no sweeps because everyone scatters during that time.
So what I can say to that, if there's any concern as to there being any sweeps during that time, the census, this year, the 2020 census will also be available online, and it can be taken online by anyone. It doesn't necessarily have to be only people, who have their addresses. So, I mean, that's one option people have as well.
Well,
If they want to
some
take
of
it-
us are not computer friendly.
Right. But we do expect that there will be what we call mobile questionnaire assistance. So for areas where we know that there is a need for people to have assistance with online self-response, people can go there and there will be a census representative there to help and assist So if they want to self-respond, and also self-respond is available through the end of July. The last day to self-respond is July 31st. So that's as I was saying, anyone can apply online if they believe that they have not been counted. If you haven't been approached by a census worker any of those 3 days and you feel that you are not counted, I mean, as I said, you have the option still to self-respond online through the end of July 31st. That's also another option.
Question,
Yes.
bilingual workers, because
Yes,
people
definitely.
are,
Yeah, and we do hire bilingual workers as well. If you're a bilingual any language, as I said, we have more information there at our table. Please go take, we have little cards that tell you where to go to apply. And yes.
How long does the job last for? Is it temporary or is it permanent?
So
Till
it
July?
is expected that most employment will be temporary for the duration of the 2020 census. However, I can't say with 100% guarantee that, you know, it's only temporary. It's possible that someone could be hired on permanently as well. So that is always a possibility.
We also have a question.
Yeah, of course, sorry.
Hi, I'm Mary Guthrie from
Hi.
Health Department. I don't know how this ties in, but it would be really nice to get some information back email to us.
Yeah.
Let us know when those sweeps are gonna happen.
I
I
will.
have a client that lost all her insulin in the sweep. Everything was thrown away. In the past, we've had people have their wheelchairs thrown away. And, you know, that insulin is expensive as wheelchairs and a lot of other of those personal belongings. So we tried to help her out, but, you know. there was
I will leave my
nothing.
contact information if you wouldn't mind giving me yours as well. I can
I will.
certainly touch base with you and follow up on that as well. Yes, absolutely.
Is there any other questions for the census?
And I just want to
Diana?
reassure everybody as well that please don't, there should not be any need for fear to, you know, do the census. We're hopefully very approachable individuals. I like to think I'm not scary at all. So there's no need to be afraid. We do not report any personal identifiable information. Just give me 1 second while I finish. Everything stays with the census. We do not disseminate any information to any law enforcement agency. No police will ever receive any of our information, including FBI or ICE. So there's no need to fear anything with regards to that. It is all absolutely confidential. And as I mentioned, we are mandated to take an oath that we will not disclose any personal identifiable information for life. Or if we were to violate, and if we were to violate that, we would face penalties of $250,000 fine or up to 5 years in prison. So please trust that we will never disclose any of your information to anyone. And I hope.
A question.
That's it. Oh, yes.
If you're here in this country legally, you have to be counted too, right?
Everybody is counted. We do not report any identifiable, any
Okay.
personal identifiable.
Not because I'm afraid of
device.
immigration or anything, just so that the people who don't have
For
documents.
the purposes of the census, citizenship status is irrelevant.
Why do we do a census?
For, that's a good question. Because we're talking about up to and possibly more than $700 billion in annual federal funding.
Okay.
That goes to things like grants that are used by people in these lovely organizations to help provide you with all the resources that you need. It goes to programs such as WIC for women, infant, and children, for SNAP, free lunches in school. It goes to Title I funding for schools. It goes to infrastructure, hospitals. If any of you have ever needed any medical care, please believe that a lot of the funding that comes from the data from the census goes to funding clinics, hospitals, all kinds of medical needs in the communities. So that's why it's really important.
Does the
Yes.
census go for housing too as well?
Yes, it goes for housing as well. All the data that is used from the census, it helps
Being homeless,
determine
that's
what the
probably the most
housing.
important.
Absolutely.
Poor people.
Okay, guys, we're gonna move along. We have a lot of other speakers
Okay.
today, but thank you so much,
I
Diana.
hope I answered all your questions. If you have any more questions or if you need any more information, please come see us over here at the table. As I mentioned, lovely Florence is helping me. We'll be over here for a little
Got any
while.
snacks?
Thank you. Thank you.
So now we're gonna introduce Monica and her team to talk about PG&E and the product update.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. We're very happy to be here with all of you today.
One mic.
My name is Monica Tell, and I am with PG&E. I am a community relations manager. And today, we're here to talk to you and share information about our project that will actually begin.
I can't hear you because there's background noise. Because I'm happy.
Okay, I think they're being quiet.
Thank you.
Okay, we're here to share information about our project, which is happening right across the street from Alleyway. There's like 2 empty lots there that have been vacant for a while. We will be starting work in May, so I'm here with my colleagues, Rosanna, Peniche, and Raul Quinones, to share with you,
Another road?
Rosanna, to share with you what this project is all about, any impacts to the local community, how we will continue to communicate and update you on our work. So with that,
We're having trouble in the back here.
I know. So with that, I want to introduce Raul Quinones, who's going to walk us through the technical aspects of our project, and really going to dive into what this work is going to entail.
Okay, thank you. As Monica said, I'm Raul Quinones. I'm with Terra Pacific Group, or the consultant for PG&E, doing the remediation work at the site. So I'm going to give you a little brief background of the project, what was there before, what we're going to do to clean it up, and the controls that we're going to have in place. So this site was the site of a manufactured gas plant that operated from the late 1800s to the early 1900s. So a manufactured gas plant was, back in those days, they had to make gas from either coal or crude oil. So that was the stock. They would bring in coal. Later in 1900, they switched to oil. They would have tanks that had oil, and they would have a manufacturing process that would make gas. They would use that gas to heat up the street lamps back in those days, and then for ovens and things like that in the household community. So they closed this facility down in the late 1929. Once natural gas became available, there was no need to manufacture the gas. So back in those days, just so you know, that was not owned by PG&E. It was another coastal gas company that served it. PG&E bought it about the time that they closed it down, and PG&E assumed all the liability for the cleanup. So back in those days, you know, they would close up these sites and they would just leave all the contamination in place. And so then they had a gas holder there that operated until the 1960s, and then they just completely closed it, sold the parcels. Chevron, or not Chevron, but Unical, Union Oil Company, bought the northern parcel, and the California Water Service Company bought the southern parcel. And the Union Oil had a bulk plant, so they had their own storage tanks over there. They completed their cleanup, but there are some commingled things that we're working with Chevron. Chevron now bought Unical. We are working with them to clean up the site, to do the remaining cleanup on the site. So we submitted a remedial action plan to the Department of Toxic Substances Control. It got approved in 2019. To remediate the site. So what it's going to involve in situ soil stabilization, which means we're going to auger the soil, we're going to mix in cement, and we're going to solidify the contamination. We're going to excavate the top 4 feet and backfill that with clean soil so that there's going to be a cap of clean soil on top of that. And then the rest of the site is going to be capped with gravel. And so any residual contamination will be left under the ground. Yes?
My question to you is, because I'm part of the downtown street team, I'm on medical leave right now. This is for the downtown street. Would you be needing any help cleaning the area? Because I've seen, my team has, the downtown street team has seen a lot of garbage in the facility.
Yeah.
And would you be leading the downtown street team
right.
to clean up the area for you?
Yeah, we're actually working really closely with Maria Cameron, and so we are partnering with your team right now to help, you know, facilitate
We've
and
been
also
looking at that and
Yes.
been trying to find a way of cleaning, because we're, my teammates are, and my team leaders are very aghast and want to, we've been really wanting to
clean up that spot.
Yeah, no,
those
and
spots.
like I said, we're working with Maria, we've had several meetings with her, so just know we're working closely with DST, right? Or DTS.
DTS.
Downtown streets.
Yes.
What is the contaminant that's there? Is it just,
Yeah, the primary, the byproducts of the manufacturing process are oily toxins, tarry material, but that was left in the ground, oil that leaked from the tanks that were underneath, underground. And then some of the byproducts are like naphthalene. Naphthalene is what's used to make mothballs. And of course, they don't use mothballs
Is it
anymore.
hazardous?
And most of the soil that's coming out of there will be classified as non-hazardous, but there may be some pockets of material that may be classified as hazardous, and we're going to ship that, we're going to segregate that stuff and ship it off separately.
okay.
So that's why we're cleaning it up. We're going to remove the upper part of that.
Is it toxic to like be nearby that area?
Not the way it is right now, it is not, because it's underground, it's
Okay.
capped. There's no harm for anybody the way it is now.
Okay.
Right? Yes.
What are you looking to put there?
That, I couldn't tell you right now. It's going to be left as a commercial,
Cleanup.
as a commercial property. And it won't be housing, but it'll be commercial, and that's up to the city what they're going to do in the future. So, next slide. So just to show you a little bit of what the kind of equipment we're going to have out there. We're going to have something like this, like a track crane with an auger that's going to be drilling and mixing the soil. And there's another photo of another piece of equipment that's doing the same thing. Next slide. And here's a picture of what one of these augers look like. And they'll be set in the ground. They're usually about 10 to 15 feet diameter, so it's pretty big operation. We're going to have a couple of tanks that are going to hold the cement. It's going to be just basically Portland cement and water that will be mixed up. And will be mixed up as the augers are turning into soil, mix it up with the soil. So the swell that comes out of there, obviously that's going to increase the volume. That material will be loaded onto trucks and hauled off-site. Next slide. So here's typically what happens. We've got dust and odor control. We're going to be spraying any material that we excavate. We're going to be spraying down the trucks. We're going to do air monitoring. We're going to have air monitoring stations around the site so to make sure that any of the contaminants remain on site. They do not exit the site. So we'll have all of these odor and dust control measures in place to keep that from happening. Next slide. So this is part of the area around the site. Monica, I think
Yeah, and so really important for us is really safety of the local community and local residents as well. And I think most of you, have seen the encampments that at some points have blocked even access into the entrances to both of those parcels that we're looking to work in. And so our commitment is to be proactive in our communication, be sensitive to the residents, ensure that they understand that once we begin work, we need to perform that work safely. We will have trucks coming in and out of the area. The fence line will be moved, so that entire area will need to be cleared so that we can do our work and ensure that the community is safe while we are performing that work. So we've been working closely with the Downtown Streets team, with Officer Carby, with Joe Allen from Dorothy's Kitchen, as well as Tina LaPearl from the city to ensure that we're coming in, that you are informed about our work, that you understand the duration, and also that we're all safe as we work within the community.
Why did you take so long to do this? I mean, it was in 1929, almost a century.
Yeah, so we've been here for about 10 years in terms of starting work for this project, but it's a lengthy process in terms of coming out, doing the sampling, assessing the level of contamination, really creating a plan for what type of work is going to be needed to remediate the site. And then we also work under the oversight of the Department of Toxic Substance and Control. And so they have to also approve all of our plans. There's a lot of permitting that goes into place. So it really is a multiple
So we need
year
to stay
process.
away from there.
You will, and once we start work, there really, I don't believe there will be much access to that area. And like I said, a big piece to this is just safety. There's going to be big trucks coming in and out. There's going to be drilling. It's just best for us to be able to come in and do our work and ensure that the public and the community is safe while we're doing that.
Yes, when you're digging with the auger, is it gonna release stuff in the air? I mean, some, the breathing wise, are these people that are around here, is it gonna be safe for them?
No, it's going to, that's why we're going to have air monitoring stations around the site. We're going to have dust control. We're going to be watering all of the soil so that it doesn't get into the air. We have a permit with Monterey Bay Area Air Quality Control District.
And the workers
Pollution
themselves,
Control
they
District.
will
Yeah.
be.
And so they're going to be monitoring that as well. So we're doing everything in compliance with these agencies that monitor air quality. And, it's, and like Monica said, safety is our #1 concern. We're really big on safety, and not just our workers. We're going to have our workers that are going to be inside that are working. So we have to ensure their safety as well as everybody else's safety around the community.
How much of this dirt is gonna really be cleaned? I mean, like you said, you're gonna go 4 feet, right? You're gonna go
4 feet, and then below that is going to be the in situ stabilization. We're going to mix that all the way down to 30 feet.
Oh.
So that's going to be, so the contamination down there is going to remain in place, but it's going to be solidified so that it cannot migrate, it cannot move anywhere. And then it's going to be covered with clean soil so that there's no way for it to contact or for anybody to be exposed to it.
One question would be, when is this supposed to start?
Okay, we have,
Yeah, we're gonna
get to the schedule. So, just so, I want to show you here, this map here, here's our site, here's the PG&E parcel, the Chevron parcel, this is Bridge Alley, Market Way, and Bridge Street. The magenta here, or pink colored, is the construction fence that we're going to put around the site. So we're going to be putting it out across on the outside of the sidewalk. We're going to close completely down, we're going to close the alley completely down, and Market Way is going to be shut down as well. So it's going to only be open to truck traffic. This fence actually is going to be extended down to Soledad Street, so we're going to close it off at Soledad Street, coming all the way up here to the where the turn is here on Market Way, going into Bridge Street. So we're going to have trucks, are going to be coming in from Market Way, they're going to be accessing the site here, they're going to be coming out one of these 2 exits, and they're going to be exiting out towards the north to haul material off to offsite. Yes.
Are you gonna have employment opportunities for anyone?
We will be working, as Monica said, with the street team.
Downtown
Downtown
Yeah.
street. Yeah.
But other than that group, no?
No, well, a lot of the work that's taking place here is very technical in nature, and there's a lot of certification that goes into, employees being on the site. Obviously, we're dealing with contaminated materials, so whenever we have the opportunity, and if there is, we will do local hires. At this point, we don't anticipate that happening, but I can't say for sure that we will. And if we do, we will make sure that we work closely with members of the community like Jackie, Jill, Maria, and others that are very involved here to make sure that, we make those opportunities available to the community.
Okay, next slide. And of course, this shows the traffic, how we're going to divert traffic. It's going to go down Soledad, we're going to block this off. The black arrows are for the trucking, and then the red and blue arrows are the detours for the regular traffic coming through there. We're going to have flaggers, we're going to have all kinds of traffic control and signs and everything are going to be set up. And this is a bigger picture of the truck routes, taking it offsite to the offsite approved landfills. So this discusses all the controls that we're going to have for air monitoring. We have an air monitoring plant, we're going to have the air monitoring stations, we're going to have people walking around with handheld monitors to make sure that nothing is leaving the site. And if they get any type of reading, they shut the job down immediately. So they know, they're trained, and we're monitoring the concentrations at all times. So if anything happens, we shut it down to make sure the levels are down, the dust is down, nothing is exiting the site before we start up again. And then this is...
Yeah, this just gives us kind of general overview. As we mentioned, we've been working on this project and have been working with the community since 2010. We have been doing regular updates and check-ins with county officials as well as the city, briefing with the local community like we're doing here today, as well as making sure we're in touch with the local business owners and property owners in this area so that they are aware of what's going on. We are working closely with police and fire. We want to make sure that, as we move forward, work is done safely, but they also understand the nature and the type and the impacts of our work as well. We've done door-to-door outreach. I think some of you may have seen my colleague, Rosanna Peniche. She's been here a lot more than I have, but she's really the face to the project as well in the local community. And we will be reachable 24 hours a day. We do have a hotline number. Once the project begins, we will be providing updates via email. So anyone who's interested, we'd be more than happy to put you on that email list. We will continue to work closely with members of our community like Jackie and Jill and Maria, and we're happy to come back and provide updates as the project moves forward, or if there are other agencies or organizations that might be interested, we're happy to come to you and provide information as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And as I mentioned, we will have bilingual staff available as well, and that's just our contact information. So we're here, we want to make sure we're being proactive, we want to make sure you understand, and that you don't just have a phone number or an email address, but there's also faces to this project, and feel free to reach out to us at any time.
Just the last time, they had a question about the schedule. So we're working on finishing up the permit applications, and we've already started some field work. You've probably seen some folks out there doing some cleanup work on site. We're going to be out here next week. They're going to be doing the marking locations. We're going to be doing some drilling, getting some soil samples ahead of the remediation work, just to profile the contaminated material that we're going to haul off. And that'll be through April. We're going to be doing some preliminary work around the site. So we're going to be drilling out there for the next couple, 2-3 weeks. And then we'll start putting up the perimeter fence around the job site. And then we'll actually be starting the remediation. We'll begin in May, and we expect it to be completed around November or December. So through the rest of the year.
Yeah, and that's it. So if you have any other questions, we welcome that. We will be back. You will be seeing us walking through the community once our project begins actively working. And other than that, if there are no questions, I just want to thank Jackie for giving us the opportunity to come and meet with you today, and we look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Bridge housing opportunities at the new navigation center.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. I'm Tina LaPro with the City of Salinas. I'm going to be overseeing the cash program That's going to be operating out of downtown Chinatown and also up in the downtown district, mainly with the church library project. So I wanted to update you all where things are at with that. Today we are routing the funding agreements, the signed agreements, to the awardees, which is Community Homeless Solutions, Cecil. Cecil is partnering with CSUMB Monterey Bay and some housing locators and interim. So those agreements will be dated February 1. So as of next week, we'll be able to begin this. So I have met along with Chris from Community Homeless Solutions with the Peer Advisory Council. I don't know if you'll recall, but several meetings I took interest from community members on who was willing to be on our Peer Advisory Council. We had 6 people show interest and we needed 4 primary. So we had 4 primary people and 2 alternates. From that, we developed a proposed selection process for KESH. So KESH will have 3 primary components. There will be a bridge housing component tied to housing navigation and wellness services and housing placement, okay? And then there will be an engagement component, and that's for folks to have a designated person to work towards any housing or wellness goals that they have. And then there'll be a street outreach component, and that's like folks who will generally come out and make sure you are aware of different opportunities and eligibility for programs. That will be down here in Chinatown as well at the church library project. So those are kind of the 3 prongs of KESH. What we came up with for selection process, and it's still under comment, are 2 possibilities. The possibilities that myself and the Peer Advisory Council are endorsing are to do a lottery and to have 6 preferences. So up to 6 points, and I'll go over that with you in a minute. Then there would be a program interview with each program, and you can understand the benefits and the expectations. And then there would be like, well, actually the interview would be called like a meet and greet. One step before that, there's a selection process from the lottery. So let me share with you what we designated as the 6 preferences.
Lottery for what?
And Tina, do you want me to pass
For the KESH program.
the assignment?
Yeah, if you could, that'd be
We
great.
have
I
a
didn't
sign
catch what
sheet for the
was for
lottery.
February 1st?
February 1st is where the KESH program opens, the KESH project. Okay, so what we're proposing for the first step, okay, is a lottery selection. So we would draw a certain amount of names, okay? And from those names, we would then sift out a preference, okay? So one of the preferences is a coalition referral, okay? Now let me sidestep for a moment and say, it might turn out that KESH will have all the referrals from the coalition. We don't know yet. We're trying to determine what's the best approach. The second one would be Moongate Plaza. These would be applicants that were declined or very low down on the wait list. A third would be the Sherwood Park Unsheltered. That's a city priority. Another is the Market Way and Bridge Alley Unsheltered. You just heard about the PG&E project. And then Unsheltered in Chinatown and Unsheltered in the downtown district. So that's 6 points. So does anyone have any questions about that proposed lottery? Yes,
What does
sir.
that mean, on a shelter?
It means you're living outside in like a tent or you don't have, yeah, you know, it's like another term for homeless. Yeah.
How many slots are available?
Right now, 15 for the bridge housing, but we can serve a number in engagement. The organizations are proposing one, I think, to serve 50 and another 75, so potentially 125 served in engagement.
What do you mean by engagement?
So engagement is, these are folks that we don't have the housing for right now. And we are willing to help work with them through a process. Like, it takes steps to get to housing acquisition, and you might have several things that you have to do, and rather than not give you anything, we want to assign you someone who will work with you to begin clearing those steps. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How true is it that they want us out of Chinatown?
How true is it what?
That they want the homeless out of Chinatown?
I believe what we would like to do is offer folks some services and some housing, but I haven't heard like anything like we want you guys out of Chinatown.
Because there's some, I know people who've been here for 15 years and they like living outside. They don't.
Well, I mean, just to give you an example, yesterday I met with a gentleman and he thought about it and he said, you know, living inside isn't for me. I prefer to live outside, and that's his choice. So instead what we're going to do is look at a different possibility for him. Maybe he can get a camper. This man has a military background. Maybe he can be a docent at a county park or something like that. We're going to work to try to meet people where they're at.
Which would be helpful if there was no sweeps.
Okay, so any questions so far on what I said about the lottery? Yes, sir.
I got a question that deals with that, how do you say, the construction part of like cleaning and like he's mentioning about the sweeps, right? If they're gonna like do cleaning and all that, like it's gonna be protected for the homeless, right? As far as like the air and everything, and we can't breathe all that stuff in. Are they expecting us to move the homeless people out of their tents and get situated and moved around somewhere else?
I believe so.
There you go.
So they're gonna just expect us to haul up our stuff and take off?
Yes.
Find a new spot, but where? That's the big question.
And that's one of the reasons why we felt it was a priority to give a preference for people located there for the cash process.
Right. And is that the capacity of everyone who's going to be displaced from the places that are getting zeroed out right now, the Market Way and Bridge Street?
No, because we're working with a limited capacity of this demonstration project with no prior knowledge of that.
So what does the city expect will happen to the remainder of people who don't make it into these programs?
I honestly don't know. I hope that people will be able to find another spot down here. The city might be talking about working out something else in a different meeting away from me. So I'm not sure, but I do believe what I've heard is that people will just probably have to find another spot on the right of way down here. Yes.
For all these housing projects and lotteries and stuff, does having legal documentation affect your eligibility?
I think maybe in a limited sense. We don't know for sure yet to what degree. We're looking into the challenge with this is that Kesh is offering a flexible housing subsidy, right? It's essentially a leap of faith. It's not a voucher. We then have to go and advocate that when vouchers come out, that those receiving the cash subsidy potentially get a flip to a voucher. So that's like work for us that we need to do in the leadership and management of this grant. So what we're trying to do to ensure the success of that is to keep what we do as much in line with HUD and the Housing Authority requirements as we can. So we're still sorting those details out.
So, let me word this. To get a housing voucher, you have to have legal documentation.
I believe so.
So then, okay, when it's time to do the flip, let's say I don't have papers, am I out?
Well, I do hope that whatever you've gotten for a subsidy, you may receive a subsidy 3 months, 9 months, 1 year, 2 years. That gives you, that buys you time to be working on a plan, to solidify a plan for yourself. Cash is a hand up, not a hand out.
Of course.
That's what the program's called, cash?
Speaks an
Cash.
awful lot.
How do you spell that?
CHE, excuse me, CESH. California Emergency Services and Housing Program.
Because a lot of people have been in this country 50 years and they weren't able to immigrate because they didn't let Obama do the lottery, the amnesty. Some people just don't have a way to immigrate. They just don't. You know, some of us have been here. Personally, I'm born in Mexico, but my birth certificate says I'm born in El Paso, Texas. I was able to get around it. But I know hundreds of people who are not. You know, and I don't see Trump doing an amnesty anytime soon.
Right.
And a lot of them are homeless, especially the ag community who, you know, they work all season, but then there comes a point where the season ends and they can't go down south because then they'll be deported.
But I want to clarify with you with cash, it's to serve Chinatown in the downtown district, folks living
I know
in
people
that
here with
district.
no papers.
Yeah, so we would get them routed to maybe Catholic Charities or something.
Can you
Start
remember
that.
one more time what cash means?
Yes, California Emergency Solutions and Housing Program.
What are the requirements for this program?
The overall requirements, like for eligibility, are that you would be homeless or unsheltered in the Chinatown or downtown district. And then whatever program prong you're applying to, there will probably be additional requirements which they would furnish to you at the interview. And you would have time to think about it.
Did you say segregated housing?
No.
What's the S stand for?
Solutions.
It's a lot of syllables though.
So do you need an income to take part of this program?
No, you don't. You don't need an income. Having said that, to let you all know, the Peer Advisory Council wanted to make sure if there was some people that had no income and they were in that high vulnerability and they came out really favorable for the lottery, that they not be overlooked. Now just know, we only have so much money in that flexible housing subsidy to carry us to a voucher or something. So we have to be cautious about the number of people we enroll with no income.
I have one other question. What about the LGBT community? Yes. So would they be able to come as well? How would that work? Would they be safe?
Would they be what?
Safe. The big thing is being
absolutely.
safe. Would they be accepted and safe in this?
Absolutely. Is Chris still here? Chris, do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, that has nothing to do with the eligibility requirement for the navigation center. So, as of right now, when the navigation center opens, it's going to be temporarily housed in one room for everybody, and then that housing will be moved outside. Everybody that's going to be housed inside is temporary, so they're all going to be in one room. So, but yeah, that has no bearing on any of the requirements to stay at the navigation center.
We will make sure that people from that community are safe.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a question. Is the shelter that's for the navigation center, is that going to be co-ed? Is it going to be gender specific?
So we don't know yet. We have to see either what the lottery dictates, or if we end up going with just the coalition referral, we have to see what they refer. So the gender is to be determined at this point.
What if they're gender fluid?
Perfect.
Oh, even better. Everybody's gender fluid. Another question, what about pets? Because I know a lot of our clients, the pets, are their children, and they can't be without them.
So we discussed allowing pets, and we're going to accept pets. We just have to make sure we locate the kennels in the non-flood zone.
Correct. And then there are some limitations on some animals because of insurance premiums. But besides that, pets are fine.
So cats too, because we have people down here with cats.
Yeah, I believe if the cat can stay in the kennel.
Ooh, that's gonna be tricky.
I have a German Shepherd, and he's like extremely big, but he's like considered a service dog also.
He is or he isn't?
He is.
He is.
Yeah.
So Chris, she's interested, obviously, and she has a German Shepherd that's a service dog.
I believe German Shepherds don't fall under that, but I'd have to follow up because if it's a documented service animal, that's a different bracket we'd have to look into.
So maybe you can ask him. Yeah. Any other questions?
Gives her time to get documentation if she doesn't have it.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, also there was a rumor going around that once you guys open up the shelter with the 15 beds, that you guys going to shut down the bathrooms and showers on us at nighttime?
Chris, do you want to respond to that?
That is incorrect. We will still be having access for the community of Chinatown. The hours are going to stay the same. The only thing that might change is like right now there's 4 showers that are available, where it might be a little bit less of another, maybe 1 or 2 or more. 2, because the residents that stay there are going to be the priority to make sure that they have access to everything in the facility.
So it might just be a little longer of a wait, and you know Dorothy's has showers open too, so.
Okay.
Any other questions?
One last
Jackie?
question. So how long can you stay in the bridge housing?
So when you come into the bridge housing, you will submit an individual goal plan, and you will let us know how long you're proposing to stay. And there'll be a dialogue about that.
So it's just transitional housing?
Yeah, you can call it that.
Someone.
Except for there's a housing placement at the end, pretty much guaranteed.
Do you have to pay rent there?
We didn't talk about that, paying rent. We do want to see that the folks that do this are invested and committed in some way. And we thought, well, what if they paid something, a program fee or something like that? But it didn't go any further than that discussion, so no.
Because there's a bunch of us that are not getting income at the moment.
Yeah, so you won't have to worry about that. Yes, sir.
From what I heard, like, the, what's it called, the Moon Gate, I believe it's called?
Across the street?
Yeah, Moon Gate. Will the bridge program be running similar to how they have it, where you pay like only 1/3 of whatever it is you make? Like, as far as like rent? I know they said that to be an applicant, you didn't necessarily have to pay the full amount of rent. You can just pay like 1/3 of what you make annually. I guess, I don't know if it's monthly, yearly, or whatever, but is that how the bridging house is gonna be running?
Similarly, yeah, I want to say similarly. Moongate is permanent supportive housing, and they have vouchers and entitlement subsidies, whereas Kesh is a flexible housing subsidy and not a voucher. So I do believe Cecil is looking to adopt those same guidelines, you know, around that 30-33%. But again, I'm not sure this is something like that Cecil would discuss with you, you know, at that program level. But we're trying to keep it similar.
I have one last question. So some of our community members are with child. And so what if they have a child with them, like, you know, just gave birth to an infant, or they have a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old, even a 12-year-old? Would they be eligible to go to the center, to the bridge housing?
So what we had talked about is we would try to work with someone in that circumstance to refer them to the most appropriate service. And if there weren't openings, what we're doing is looking at possibly offering a few, very few bridge housing slots with them through a motel voucher. So we might put a pregnant woman with a young child there if we cannot find like a more appropriate resource. Yeah, but they're coming from that, they would have to be coming from the downtown or Chinatown district for that.
Does anybody have any more questions? Well, with that, the town hall meeting is over. We still have people from the census and PG&E if you have any questions. So thank you for coming.